Hello, audience. How are you? Good? Unfortunately, I'm not so good. I'm so nervous. This is my first experience to record my lecture, my speech. I feel like being a very famous internet instructor, internet teacher, like EBS. Anyway, I will give a presentation about our study. As you see, the title of our study is the effect of strategy-centered instruction on high school students' English listening competence and self-efficacy in Korea. Here are our co-authors. I'm Dong-Hoon Lee. The others are co-authors. Our study has 5 parts like this: instruction, theoretical background, and then research method, and then results of research, and conclusions and suggestion. Are you interested in English education? Surely we interested in English education. We really want to improve students' competence, English competence. So this research aims to examine the extent to which strategy-centered instruction provides an advantage to standardized English listening assessment and English self-efficacy in English listening. So our research questions are like this. First, strategy-centered instruction had a positive effect on students' English listening competence. Second, strategy-centered instruction had a positive effect on students' English listening self-efficacy. To achieve this purpose, the study never investigated practical methods of applying strategy-centered instruction, focused on teaching listening strategies under various theoretical background. So we searched some theories about English listening and English listening strategies. What is English ability? David Noonan says English is the Cinderella skill in second language learning. I concur. I agree with David Noonan when he calls listening the Cinderella of the second language learning. Listening is always lying in the shadow of her older stepsisters, right? Her older stepsisters are speaking, writing, and reading. While there is undoubtedly value in being able to communicate in your target language to speak well, you need to know how to listen well. In fact, listening is an area where students spend more than 50% of their time studying in second language. And then, according to Krasden and Taylor, acquisition can take place only when people understand messages in the target language. They also thought listening is also important. And then, according to Anderson and Lynch, listening is an active process of communication in which the listener listens to speaker and constructs and interprets the meaning by using linguistic and non-linguistic knowledge according to his purpose, expectations, and background knowledge. And another definition about listening is an active and conscious process in which the listener constructs meaning using clues from the contextual information and existing background knowledge. To do so, the listener uses many strategic means. I agree all of them. Do you agree? So, what is listening strategies? And according to Anderson, listening comprehension has 4 processes: perceptual processing, echoic memory, parsing, and utilizing. At perceptual processing, people decode sound units and syllable boundaries to identify words. And then at echoic memory, they stored what they did in previous stage, that is perceptual processing. And then at parsing stage, students, by comparing linguistic information stored in long-term memory with words accepted at previous stage, words and phrases are interpreted to form meaning. And then lastly, utilizing stage, complete the understanding of listening by linking the information you have with the information entered through the previous 2 steps. And then according to Rost, successful learners use 6 strategies. That is predicting, inferring, monitoring, clarifying, responding, evaluating. Do you find out something? I think the definition and the listening strategies are all the same. Not the same, all very similar to each other, I think. So it is a listening strategy that students are reflexively students use reflexively in a short time to promote listening activities consisting of a series of complex activities. After all, most listeners are not aware of the whole process, but they naturally use the appropriate strategy according to listening comprehension process. And then next, we researched self-efficacy. According to Bandura, self-efficacy is the belief in one's capabilities to organize and execute the courses of action required to manage prospective situation. Self-efficacy is a person's belief in his or her ability to succeed in particular situation. Bandura described these beliefs as determinants of how people think, behave, and feel. Virtually all people can identify goals they want to accomplish, things they like to change, and the things they would like to achieve. However, most people also realize that putting these plans into action is not quite so simple. Bandura and others have found that an individual's self-efficacy plays a major role in how goals, tasks, and challenges are approached. And do you know learned helplessness? It is correlated, I think it is correlated with self-efficacy. Learned helplessness is, in psychology, a mental state in which an organism forced to bear aversive stimuli or stimuli that are painful or otherwise unpleasant becomes unable or unwilling to avoid subsequent encounters with those stimuli, even if they are escapable, presumably because it has learned that it cannot control the situation. So they do not try to escape those situations. Maybe students who have low self-efficacy about learning English, they can be read to learn the helplessness, I think. So to achieve this study's purpose, the study investigated practical methods of applying strategy-centered instruction focused on teaching listening strategies under various theoretical background. The subjects or the participants of the study were 81 students of second grade from high school in South Korea. The students are in my school, the school I work for. One group of 38 students were chosen as the experimental group, and the other group of 42 students was chosen as the control group. The experimental group was focused on English listening strategies. In contrast, the control group was taught mainly by traditional teacher-centered instruction. The task activities that two groups of learners participate in at each stage of the listening classes are the same. The difference was made in terms of how to guide the strategy. The experimental group was guided to allow learners to select and apply appropriate strategies on their own from the list of strategies for listening questions to be learned. In contrast, in control group, teachers directly presented and guided appropriate strategies for listening and reading listening questions. The term of the experiment about 4 months. And the study material is sample questions from previous tests and EBS teaching materials. Pre and post assessment tool was National Education Assessment. It is very much like College Scholastic Ability Test, CSAT. So now I will introduce the results of research. First, it was shown that strategy-centered instruction had a positive effect on the students' English listening ability. Surely, this result was found to be statistically significant. The detailed results of the figures are at the paper. The students in the experimental group performed better in the post-test, evaluating the students' proficiency of English listening than the students in the control group. Second, strategy-centered instruction had a positive effect on the students' English listening self-efficacy. This result was also surely found to be statistically significant. Also, more detailed the figures are in the paper. You can refer to the paper. Although the students in both the experimental group and the control group had a positive effect, the students in the experimental group gave more positive responses with regard to their English listening self-efficacy. So, according to this result, this study suggests as following. First, for the effectiveness of student-centered instruction, it is necessary for students to be taught to understand and utilize the various strategies when learning English. And to do so, instructors need to design a class with appropriate strategies for the purpose of learning. Second, self-efficacy is one of the most important learner variables. This study shows that strategy-centered instruction has a positive effect on the English self-efficacy. Also, other studies show that students with greater or high English self-efficacy have a greater learning motivation, while they show lower levels of learning anxiety. Therefore, learners should get as many successful opportunities as possible to grow their English self-efficacy in order not to be led to learned helplessness. Third, students should have a variety of English. Students would have a variety of English proficiency, situation, interests, tendencies, and so on, to suit the needs and situation of each student. Appropriate techniques and methods for the strategy-centered instruction have to be developed. Based on the results and suggestion of this study, further researchers need to be conducted to investigate a greater range of learners' level and various situations that might affect learners' English listening ability and self-efficacy. I will do that later, and I will ask you to do that. that study together. And then, you have any questions? If you have questions, you can ask me by email in the paper. Thank you for listening and your attention. It's all that I will. It's all. Thank you for your listening and attention again. Thank you.